If you haven't seen part 1 to this video, click on the link in the description or on the top right. Adelaide are firm in their denial of a causal link, with Mark Rasciuto constantly sounding off about the departed players leaving for money.
Got a 5-year deal on $800,000 to $850,000. He's probably a $500,000 player. Mitch McGovern, Jenkins, very happy for him to go.
And what about Collective Mind? What was their perspective? The camp was run by Amon Wolf, the managing director of Collective Mind, and in 2020, after the primary article that detailed the events of the camp, Wolf and fellow director Derek Letty spoke out in a big way through the Adelaide Advertiser, defending the camp and thrashing the media for reporting on wild exaggerations. Collective Mind attested that the Crows were broken after the 2017 Grand Final, losing a game that they were expected to win. The loss was not addressed by Adelaide to the players before their exit interviews at the end of that year, and Letty and Wolf believe this missed opportunity resulted in players coming back to the club at the start of 2018, physically and mentally out of shape. The review of the Grand Final concluded that the flaws in the Crows game were with regards to team dynamic, as opposed to any physical or tactical issues. Players noted afterwards that the external pressures of Grand Final week made it unbearable, when it's supposed to be the greatest week of a player's life. The weight of expectation meant that the lead-in was less than desirable. Supposedly, the main training session before the Grand Final was the worst of the year. Conversely, everyone spoke about how much they just absolutely loved each other down at Punt Road. Oh boy, did they just love each other. And Adelaide had smashed Richmond during the year with the same side and same system. So the assumption was that, unbeknownst to the general public, the Crows were already shattered, and Collective Mind were to repair the psyche of a team on the brink.
The hard thing was we weren't told what was going to be involved on this camp, and a lot of the details were we didn't really have any details, to be honest. So we sort of went in blind and not knowing what to expect.
The first contention that Collective Mind addressed is that the Adelaide staff, including the entire coaching panel, directors and medicos, were briefed and signed off completely on the program, quelling any ideas that the club just threw the players into experience they knew nothing about. Another concept that Collective Mind made very clear to the public after the controversy was that each program was battle tested by members of their team and designed in conjunction with former Defence Force personnel, combating the notion that these insane practices were, quote, cult-like and unfounded. The third notion that Collective Mind combated was that the camp was run by people with no qualifications in psychology or counselling, to which they responded that whilst they themselves possessed no qualifications in psychology, they merely coordinated the program, and those who were subcontracted to run it were in fact qualified psychologists, although it is noteworthy that this appears to be only the case in some of the groups that the players were split into. As a whole, Collective Mind combats the idea that mind training needed to be run by qualified psychologists when people with years of experience are just as apt. Now, if you look into the run sheets and outlines of the camp, it's clear there was a massive disconnect between what these guys were trying to achieve and how they went about it. Their messages use very new age ideas about eliminating toxic masculinity, being emotionally open and galvanized, and possessing warrior spirit. But the program that was drawn up for the players seemingly missed that mark by a very long way. Collective Mind provided player testimonies from Rory Sloane and Tex Walker that it was the best camp they'd ever been on, and that it made them better husbands. Letty and Wolf are adamant that no player nor staff member raised a single concern whilst on the camp, and that every criticism was thrown out retrospectively. They also state that Aboriginal elders were consulted and permissions were given to utilise the talking stick. And they also state that there were on-site triage processes to navigate medical emergencies, although a contrary version of the events relating to Tom Lynch are never provided. Wolf and Letty stated that the camp only ever received attention following poor on-field performance at the start of the 2018 season and never prior. The headlines that were thrown around were wildly exaggerated, stating players were tied naked to trees and they were taken blindfolded to the middle of Australia with the Richmond theme song playing on loop as punishment, like some sort of US government torture program, and that players were encouraged to swap wives. Essentially, every detail that was somewhat true of the camp had been blown way out of proportion, and Adelaide elected to remain completely silent on the issue, which Collective Mind believes is why it was a PR disaster. Wolf and Letty do agree that had they had their time again they would have changed things about the camp, but maintain that the media storm surrounding it and the lack of immediate response fed itself, turning the idea of a standard pre-season camp into a distraction which they maintain is what led to on-field performance, not the camp itself.
There was nothing there that really concerned me. I think it's been outrageously blown out of proportion.
I thought they were fantastic in terms of some of the stuff that they were able to do in terms of focus.
Eamon Wolf pushes an extremely motivated narrative that they made no money from the camp and rather did it for the love of the club, to support them through a period of pain and loss, a tale that the Adelaide Advertiser was happy to push. The journalist who penned the article in 2020 that shed light on what allegedly happened at this camp is Sam McClure, a journalist for The Age and Channel 9 who dug deep into the debacle. His piece, Inside the Camp that brought down the Adelaide Crows, was event journalism. It was teased for weeks, and when it finally dropped was read literally all over the country. People had known about this camp that was ill-received by the Adelaide players, but no one quite knew what went on fully until this article was released. Sam McClure even won a Sports News Quill Award for the article. The final twist of this story was the defamation lawsuit the Collective Mind took out against Sam McClure, Channel 9 and Caroline Wilson. In late 2020, Wolf and Leddy sought legal action, suggesting defamatory claims made by those parties has affected the business and reputation of Collective Mind beyond repair. Although no money appeared to change hands over the case, Nine eventually retracted articles and videos relating to the camp from their various outlets, as well as public apologies to Collective Mind for any hurt the media releases may have caused. Sam McClure was also reactively stripped of his Quill Award, a move that was completely unprecedented.
Commercial decisions are made by media outlets every day of the year. Mm-hmm. It was a no liability decision, and it was a decision that was made for the betterment of the situation. There was a conditional apology offered if it caused hurt to certain people.
Whether Nine thought that they may lose a court battle or whether they just couldn't be bothered engaging in a legal dispute when they could just publicly apologise and pay for legal fees, which to them would have been church change, is untold. But both Caroline Wilson and Sam McClure were damning of the apology. McClure labelled it as conditional, and Wilson said the attacks on McClure were out of line. Clearly, those two don't believe that there was much wrongdoing in the reporting, and it would appear that the apology was at the forceful hand of Nine, who as a corporation weren't really invested in this individual piece. All in all, the infamous pre-season camp of 2018 derailed the Adelaide Crows for years to come.
So all the Adelaide natives said, yeah, we told you there was nothing wrong with it.
Did they?
And there was nothing ever to see here. And if these players were so upset, why haven't they ever spoken about it and laid it all out on the record to clear it up once and for all?
But I'm pretty sure I know why. Others haven't spoken out because
why not?
They've had careers that they've been trying to pursue elsewhere at other clubs. A lot of people claim to know a lot about what happened, yet no one really knows what happened. Because I know what happened because I was there.
A fall from grace that they are yet to recover from, attempting these days to blood youth, having been forced into a wildly premature rebuild just 3 years after they won the minor premiership. Whether it was solely due to the camp is hard to say, but ultimately a combination of a wildly misexecuted attempt at the mental overhaul of a club at the hands of Collective Mind, a football club that completely mismanaged their public handling of the situation, and an explosive media opportunity left the pride of South Australia in a hole almost impossible to climb out of.
Scenes at the Adelaide Oval!
Thanks very much for watching, and I would appreciate it if you could go ahead and check out the music video for The Parlour by Willowbank Grove, which was shot by myself and a couple others over the course of 15 months. It would mean a lot if you could check it out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.